Hello! Welcome to the Gathering Stone. I'll be your guide and navigator as we set out for today's adventure. So hold on to your butts whilst I share a brand new tale of the lost. In the craggy rolling valleys of the Evermore region, amongst the many sattles betwixt the Limolusk mountain range were tens of thousands of Jibjub, a sort of sheep-looking beast whose fur resembles that of spider silk more so than a wiry wool, of whom belong to the hundreds of divergent herds, all with their own individual watcher. Now, watchers are people as varied as the herds themselves, with a plethora of skills at hand who not only tend to the Jibjub's needs, but keeps them on the move for greener pastures, ensures their safety from would-be predators, and also to barter for trade, as this is the Watcher's way of living after all. But, more to the point, this specific story is about one Watcher in particular. And much like many of the lost who arrive here, her focused but unfounded journey to the Gathering Stone. Returning to the beginning, Delilah, one of the little folk, or halfling, loved her profession, and cared for the herd very deeply. She had a knack for finding the greenest of pastures, something her people were notably profound at. But more importantly, she used the universal beauty of music as her secret weapon. She was the Jibjub's proverbial Pied Piper, and they in turn rats to her melodious march. From a didgeridoo that rang against the mountainsides announcing their presence, to the Fipple flute's short punchy orders, she receives their attention. Particularly so with the ever-so-eloquent ocarina. Some say a magical instrument, while others turn their ears in disgust. But the Jibjubs relax and nod off each night to Delilah's soft euphony, reminding them of distant lands with luscious grass and warm sunlight on their backs. Now, out of this herd there was one who seemed more intelligent than most, and who took more interest in Delilah than Delilah the same. She named this little Jub Cadenza, for standing out on her own from the herd. The two of them were nigh inseparable for a time, as Cadenza would take on a role not unlike that of a collie, nipping at heels to aid Delilah in moving the flock from place to place. She would also harmonize during the evening's ballads, mewing along to the ocarina's slow, playful melodies, then herself falling to the song and often sleeping next to Delilah for the night. It was all quite adorable, and they continued in this way for a spell. Cadenza being inquisitive and doing things quite unlike any other Jibjub before her. Delilah becoming fully invested, showing affection more implicitly and offering as many learning opportunities as was available to the curious little genius. Unfortunately, it was Cadenza's inquisitive nature that sparked our very meeting with Delilah. I say unfortunately because, well, I'm reminded of a colloquialism from your world. Curiosity killed the cat. As the two of them get wrapped up in things that have nothing to do with them, but are the consequences to actions taken many years before. Nonetheless, this is the way of the world sometimes. For Lobo has found his way into these valleys. It was a day the same as any other. Huge, chunky gray clouds were drifting across the open sky between the mountain range, and sporadically were shoved apart by hazy rays of sunshine, basking the surrounding hills and boulders with a warm hue, while Delilah's gentle music danced about the valley. The flock was grazing on a rather robust patch of dew-laden crocusfoot, and Cadenza was sitting lazily, watching the wind float along the fields, when a small spot of furry blue caught her eye. With the wind at her back, she couldn't catch a whiff of anything different. But that spot of blue kept appearing in and out of the tall grass with the movement of zephyr-like winds. Then, nothing. Cadenza's ears twitched, and she got to her feet and walked over to Delilah, who scratched the side of her neck, then abruptly halted her playing. Craning her neck to look up, Cadenza saw Delilah staring off in the same direction as that blue spot she saw earlier. Delilah was now aware of the evil stalking amongst the field, and as if in knowing the jig was up, a bluish-like coyote stepped out from behind a stone and stared, but not at the halfling. Delilah pulled the didgeridoo over and gave a rather loud, raucous blast that startled the Jibjub to attention, who instinctually moved together and gathered behind their watcher. Cadenza looked up at Delilah again, then back at Lobo, who locked eyes with her for a moment, before tucking tail and trotting off in the opposite direction. The day went on as usual without another incident, and as the night began to take hold, Cadenza wondered what that odd blue creature was doing and where it had gone. Delilah appeared to be on edge for the remainder, but kept her soft music playing well into the night until she too had fallen in exhaust. Just for a moment. And it was within that moment that a pair of yellow eyes appeared, gleaming within the dark. Cadenza tilted her head, looking on in wonder. The eyes blinked, and slowly danced around a bit. Cadenza's interest piqued. She swayed with the movement and hopped about a little bit, before succumbing to her curiosity, and walked off in their direction, swallowed by the darkness. Coming to, Delilah damned herself for dozing off as the morning sun's light crept over the mountain top. The Jibjub seemed no worse for the wear, and all were accounted for, except for Cadenza. And, well, this is sort of where we come into the picture. Delilah, heartbroken, but determined that her friend was still out there somewhere, sold her entire flock and set out in search, inquiring and spreading word of a rather elusive blue coyote. She learned of the devastation of Stalk End, some thought by a dragon, others a mythical blue beast. This did not bode well. But she continued in this manner until one day, by chance, or by some magical guiding hand, she found her way to the Gathering Stone, where at last she was able to find some answers about this Lobo. But most of all, she found some solace in the care for our feathered friends, as well as understanding amongst the other travelers who also felt lost in one way or the other, as companionship is a very important comfort in this realm, and it's one thing you will always find here, at the Gathering Stone. That's it for this week, folks. Perhaps a sad tale, but not every story has a happy ending. Let us know what you thought, and be sure to come back next week for more characters, chronicles, and illustrations. Farewell for now.